Ma'am, little update. 7 participants have already joined and 5 are not responding to the message and calls. So I think we may begin our session because now we people have been here since past 10 minutes and we can continue for the session.
Okay, should we continue, Sadhak?
Yes, ma'am, we should continue.
Okay,
And
so
before proceeding,
so we have how many participants now?
7 have joined.
Okay.
5
So
are not.
Okay, the others are not responding. It's absolutely fine. So whenever they join, probably at the end of the session, I can have a small briefing. Okay, good morning to all of you. We're still not afternoon. It's 11:40, so I think we are quite safe with the good morning. And please, if you don't mind, if you can briefly introduce yourself from where you are and what are you currently doing, and what is what are you planning in terms of your startup initiative?
I'll start with the introduction part. My name is Rahul Mahajan and I'm from Chandigarh only. I've finished my graduation from Panjab University. Now I'm working upon one very interesting platform for the pan-India farmers. We are building a next alternative platform for the farmers where they can sell their produce with the name Stocks Farm. This is all about my startup.
Fine, that's very interesting. Rather, I met other day, representatives of NABARD, and they said they've got a lot of funding with regards to anything which is related to agri and agri processing, marketing, and they're ready to give us funds if we can, come up with some good project.
I've been rigorously doing and working with this project from last 6-7 years, and from there I get to understand the pain points that both the areas of people are encountering with, especially from the farmers end, that they are not getting the fair price for their produce. And then from there I build this platform where we are integrating AI for the price, and we are in building the IoT for the live feeding. So combining these two things together, we will be able to apply the best price and best customer to the farmers.
Okay, Raul, that is, I can call you Raul if you don't mind, because that is what I can read.
You can call me in that way.
Okay, Raul, that is very interesting. If you're interested in any kind of a research project, I've been promised, huge funding from NABARD in terms of, how do we facilitate, farmers in terms of technology they wanted, because there was a meeting where I was representing the Vice Chancellor on the 13th.
Of this
and
month?
We can really work on this because I've also done substantial work on sustainable farming. We got a project, research project from Cambridge University, and I was a co-PI in that. So our work, we developed a farm assessment index, and our work has been published, and it's even on the Cambridge University website. It was called as Tigress.
That's wonderful.
So that is how, although I am a faculty in finance and accounting, but and I was asked to do only the economic analysis of organic farming, but I ended up, building up an assessment index which took into consideration the social, economic, and environmental aspects. So that is how my interest has built. So it's very nice, that young people are working towards it.
Because especially
I consider myself old.
No, you are quite young, ma'am.
Okay, nice talking to you.
Yesterday we do have a meeting with one of the investor, Can, with the name of Can. They want to tell me about the numbers. So this session becomes really important for me to understand the financial part as well.
I'm quite glad, I'm quite glad, although we are 15 minutes late, but I'm quite glad. Okay, can we have very quickly the next?
Yes, ma'am. I'll start.
Saksham.
So my name is Saksham Shukla. I'm currently pursuing my master's in engineering department in Panjab University, and I work in the domain of Industry 4.0. So here we have a team of 3 and we build industrial IoT gateways as well as different web services like IoT dashboards. So any industry which wants to digitize its machinery or some sort of data needs to be visualized. So the owner can assess all the machinery, its efficiency and any parameter that he needs to monitor. So we can deliver custom IoT solutions to any old machine over which our device can be retrofitted.
That's good. That's wonderful. Next, we have somebody from nanoscience whom I recognize.
Yes, ma'am. Myself, Dr. Richa from Nanoscience Department. And myself working on a startup that is mainly focused on making the nano dispersions of the nanoparticles. That's all.
Okay. That's great. Yes.
Good morning, ma'am. Namaskar.
Good morning.
I'm Dr. Mary Chatterjee. Basically, I'm from UIT Panjab University. Here I am assistant professor, and we are working for a rapid prostate cancer detection kit. We are in a process. So Kirti, you also introduce.
Yes, ma'am, myself Kirti from Nanoscience Department, Panjab University. Ma'am, we are basically working on early detection of prostate cancer. For that, we have developed a rapid prostate cancer detection kit that is multiple antigens based kit.
Okay, that's great. Thank
We
you.
are already in the process to build our startup. We have started the process, and we are going to participate in the coming investor summit. That's all, ma'am.
That's
Thank
good.
you. Thank you, ma'am.
Yeah. Hello, ma'am. Yeah, I'm
Hello.
Dr. Gauri. So we are a startup. We are a biotech startup. We research and develop a biomass-based active ingredient-based skincare formulation like UV filter, anti-aging, or deep moisturizer. So we develop active ingredient from the biomass, plant-based ingredients. So I have done PhD in organic chemistry from IISc Bangalore. Then couple of postdocs. So one and a half year ago, started. We have registered as a private company. We wanted to launch the first product very soon, maybe in couple of months after that. So we are in pre-revenue stage. So for us, this is very important session because as a pre-revenue stage, projecting financial projection for next at least 1 year is not that easy for me.
I
So
understand that. I understand. That is what I had asked Professor Manu Sharma, that, I have to do it pre-revenue because I can understand the major challenges are there. And if you don't understand the basic financial statements, it becomes very, very difficult. So you need to know the basics. It's easier when you have already established and, it's 1 year or 2 year down the line. But to make a beginning, which is, a startup in the first stage, it is very, very challenging. So I have kept that in mind, in my PowerPoint. Thank you. Nice talking to you.
And we are a D2C. So yes.
Okay. Fine.
Thank you.
Next.
Yeah, hello,
Prince.
ma'am. Hello, ma'am. Myself, Prince Kumar, a third year engineering student at Panjab University, building a AI research platform for crypto, for easy research and for give investors better return. That's all, ma'am. It's currently in development phase. It's like a prototype to MVP. I don't say it's completely fully potential MVP, but it's more than a prototype. It's working model currently
Okay.
and in development phase.
Okay. Thank you. Next, Anurag Mehra.
Hello, ma'am. My name is Anurag Kumar Mehra. I'm a third year BE student of UIT of Siarpur of Punjab University, and want to create a anonymous social media platform where everyone can share everything that they want to say, like everything like feelings, या फिर news, without showing identity, their
Without
identity.
showing the identity.
they can share everything that that they want to share.
You mean
Like
to say sharing without, knowing keeping your identity under cloak. That is what you're trying to
Yes.
say? Okay, thank you. Yes, there's one more person, Ades. Yes, Siddharth. There's one more.
Yes, ma'am. There is one more, Adesh Singh. I have recently talked to him, so I think he is occupied in some little work in between the meeting. So maybe he'll respond in few minutes.
Okay, fine. Okay, so I'll take him at the end, probably. I'll talk to him at the end. So I'm just going to start because we've already, it's 20 minutes up. I'm just going to share my screen. See, I've kept the Q&A at the end, but you're most welcome to ask questions in between because, as we progress from slide to slide, if you don't understand the previous slide, probably you'll have a challenge understanding, the following. So please unmute yourself. So it can be if you raise hand, I'm unable to, decipher while you're raising your hand. You're most welcome. You can just unmute yourself and speak and ask the question there, and then it will be much helpful. See, since I'm from the management department, we use a lot of accounting and finance terminologies, which we perceive that everybody knows because, we are basically teaching management students who have a basic. But, there might be some terminologies which I presumably feel and you actually do not know them. So please stop, although I have tried to make it very simple for all of you, but please stop me. Okay, that's very important to stop me and ask a question. So please feel free to stop and ask a question. I'm going to share my screen. Are you able to see my screen?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so as you can see, we are basically talking about financial projections for startups. So the emphasis is on projections, and projections are quite different from forecast. Okay, can anybody tell me if you have any idea what is the difference between a projection and a forecast? What is the difference between, probably you do not know financial, but a simple projection and a forecast? Anybody? What is the difference between a projection and a forecast?
Projection may be hypothetical, but I think forecast is more reliable.
Okay, so forecasts are basically for organization or businesses which have a history. Okay, that means they can go back to their previous, say, profits, previous expenses, previous sales, and based on what are their growth estimates, they can forecast for the future. So the basic difference over here is projection is when you do not have any historical data and you have to start from scratch, okay, which any startup has to do. So for a company which is for, like, if you already have a private limited and you've been in operations, say, for last 1, 2, 3, 4 years, you already have some idea about, what are your sales, what are your costs. So you can determine profit from there, estimate in terms of, what are your cash flows, so on and so forth. But if you are starting from, from scratch, okay, and then you need to make certain assumptions based on which you are going to draw your profit and loss account or balance sheet or cash flow statement. So in such a case, we do not call it as a forecast, but we call it as a projection, because based on some assumptions, you're going to see, how do you, determine your profits. And so this was the one question which I'd asked you, what do you mean by financial projections and how it is different from forecasts? Now, the question is, why do we need financial projections? Okay, we need financial projections because all of you are ultimately going to be having your own businesses, your own ventures. So you need to see that your company is financially sustainable. Okay, so you have a financially sustainable business. For doing that, you naturally need to know your financials. Secondly is because all of you, as you are, actually going to, this is going to your entire journey, with this particular, with Professor Manu Sharma and his investor summit is to look for funding. So you are going to pitch to an investor. So it's very important the investor is going to be, very, he or she is going to very minutely see how you have worked out. That means how have you projected your sales, expenses, assets, and that is how, your funding is going to come through. So this is the second reason why do you need to know your financial projections. The third is naturally you don't want to, go fail. Okay, so to avoid failure, you have to anticipate, assume, and come out with some figures wherein you can see how your business is going to roll over, say for the next 6 months or for the coming year, so on and so forth. So when you start for a financial, projection for a startup, see, financial statements are the same. Okay, that basically means the format for financial statements will always be the same. So I think you had a session with Professor Vashisht, wherein you have already seen. I've seen that PPT. You have seen the balance sheet. You have seen the income statement, and you have also calculated returns on capital. Okay, is that fine? Do you all remember that? You have already done that with Professor A.K. Vashisht? Yes, please unmute. It's not one way. I have interacted with you basically because I want you to, be more comfortable with me and speak. Okay, so but still I feel I need to tell you a little bit more before we start with the projections. So the first question is, what is a financial statement? Okay, the financial statement shows you where a company's money has come, where it is going, and at present, how are you currently doing. So for that, as you can see over here, we have the balance sheet, income statement, and cash flow statement. I want all of you to just listen to me very carefully. If you have any questions, you can pose, but I'm going to share the slides. Okay, so you don't have to worry about the slideshow. I will share the slideshow. And you can, then, understand everything very clearly. So the first thing over here is, what is a balance sheet? Okay, so as we go ahead, okay, I'm just, bringing up the few terms over here so that you can understand. So as I said, financial statements, the first financial statement which we are talking about, we are taking the bottom-up approach. So we are starting with the balance sheet. The balance sheet tells you about the financial position of your venture. Okay, financial position is always a click of a camera. So if you see on the right, there is a camera in front of FP. FP, the full form is financial performance. So camera basically means, just like when you click a photograph, what happens? Anybody, what happens when you click a photograph? Anybody can just unmute and speak. What happens when you click a photograph?
We get the mirror image of whatever we are getting the photograph.
Very nice, but you get it, Richa, for that particular time. Okay, अगर आपके कैमरा में टाइमिंग एंड डेट्स वगैरह सब आ रही हो, ओके, सो वो आपको बताता है कि ये आज की फोटोग्राफ है, इतने टाइम की फोटोग्राफ है. Fine, it tells you the exact date and time. So balance sheet is similar. It's just like a photograph. It tells you what is the financial position of the company on a particular date. Okay, so just remember, I'm giving you these, examples basically so that you don't forget, and it's very easy to recollect that balance sheet is just like a, click of a camera. It will tell you what are the assets, liabilities, and equity of a company on a particular date, right? So it's just like a click of a camera. Now let us come over to income statement. While balance sheet tells you the financial position of the company, your income statement will tell you ROO. These are terms, alphabets which I'm using because they are aid to memories. RRO basically means, ROO means results of operation. Results of operation means whatever is your venture, whatever are your operations, whether you're producing a good or you are going to deliver a service, okay, will have some result which can be a profit or which can be a loss. Naturally, it cannot be both. Okay, so this income statement gives you results of operation. And you will see in front of results of operation, the picture is not of a camera, but of a reel. Okay, can you see there's a reel which is there? So a reel basically implies over here, your profits are, for example, for the period. They are not captured for a date. Okay, so if you're preparing, say, your income statement for 6 months, it will tell you what is your profits or losses for 6 months. Okay, if you're preparing your income statement for a year, it will tell you what are the profits or losses for a year. So that is the difference between balance sheet and income statement. And balance sheet is a click. It will always capture a date on which you are seeing your assets and your liabilities. But your income statement is a reel which tells you if you prepare it for 3 months, 6 months, 9 months, 12 months, what has been the performance or what is the result of operations, which might be profit or loss for a period. Okay, similarly, the last financial statement is cash flow statement. Okay, it tells you, okay, the triangle which you see in front of cash is connoting change. Okay, we always write change with a triangle. So it tells you what is the change in cash. Very simple. Suppose, I start my day with 1,000 rupees. And at the end of the day, I'm just, left with 100 rupees. So if I ask you a simple question, what has been the change in my cash position? So what will be your answer? Yes, everybody? Anybody can unmute?
So, ma'am, we can add up whatever cash is in and whatever cash is out and get
I
the
don't want
balance.
you to come with the baggage. Mera simple question hai. And everybody, please, besides Richa, others should also take an initiative to talk. If I start with Richa 1,000 rupees in the day, and at the end of the day, I'm left with only 100 rupees, and I ask you a simple question. What has been the change in cash? What will be the change in cash?
900.
Very good. So your cash flow statement basically tells you that कि आपने शुरू इतने कैश से किया और आपके पास इतना कैश रह गया जो मेरा चेंज हुआ 900 रुपए. आप पूछ सकते हो कि मैम आपने 900 रुपए किस चीज पे खर्च करे, या आपको ऐसे हो सकता है कि मेरे को कहीं से किसी ने 100 रुपया दिया और एक्चुअली मेरे पास 1,100 रुपीज हो गए हो. सो दैट चेंज इज अगेन कैप्चर्ड बाय द कैश फ्लो स्टेटमेंट. और आप कैश फ्लो स्टेटमेंट के आगे भी एक मेटाफर देखोगे, इसके आगे भी रील ही है. ओके, सो क्या चेंज हुआ है कैश का फॉर अ मंथ, फॉर अ 6 मंथ, फॉर अ 9 मंथ और फॉर अ ईयर. सो we can see balance sheet का जो approach है, it's quite dissimilar from income statement and cash flow statement, basically on account of the fact that balance sheet is always a click of a pic and it tells you what is the financial position for a particular date, while your income statement and cash flow statement tells you for the period कि आपने इतना अपने ऑपरेशन से प्रॉफिट kamaya. Yeah, this is what you have spent in terms of cash during a period. I hope everybody has understood this. Yes?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, please stop me wherever you have a question. I'm going further. Okay, fine. Now, this is just a repetition for aid to memory. We have talked about 3 statements: balance sheet, income statement, and cash flow statement. Okay, and as I've told you with camera and the reel, you can see I have highlighted in red, balance sheets is always at a specific date. and while your income statement and your cash flow statement is always for a period of time. I think you've already understood this point. Okay, on the right now you can see, okay, what I have done is you can see the balance sheet for 2 dates. Okay, it is 1st April 2024, and I hope everybody understand what is the financial year. Okay, I can see you all, please. All of you understand what is the
Yes.
financial year?
From April to April next year.
Yes.
Okay, it's from 1st April to 31st March.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so you can see the balance sheet on 1st April 2024. The financial year is going to end on 31st March 2025. This is just an example for the current financial year. तो आप देख सकते हो कि बैलेंस शीट के 2 कैमरास रखे हुए हैं. एक कैमरा पिक्चर क्लिक कर रहा है 1st April 2024 को, और दूसरा कैमरा पिक्चर क्लिक कर रहा है फॉर 31st 3rd 2025. ओके, सो ये दोनों एक हमारे पास, अगर हम इस फाइनेंशियल ईयर के लिए देखें तो एक हमारी ओपनिंग बैलेंस शीट है जो हमारी पिछले साल की बैलेंस शीट है एक्चुअली. ओके, इट इज फॉर 31st 3rd 2024 सिंस 31st और 1st में वी आर टेकिंग इट टू बी अलाइंड. सो एक पिक्चर हमने वहां पे खींच ली और एक पिक्चर हम 31st 3rd 2025 को खींचेंगे. So that is why you can see 2 cameras at the bottom of the balance sheet. On the top of the balance sheet again you can see FP. That means the balance sheet on 1st April 2024 gives you the financial position of a company on that date, and the balance sheet of 31st 3rd 2025 will give you the financial position of the company on that particular date. In between आप देखो मैंने लिखा हुआ है income statement and cash flow statement. So as I told you, both these statements, income statement and cash flow statement, are a reel. They are a movie. Okay, it's just like a movie. It's not a camera click. It's not a picture. It's a movie which you see over, the 12 months starting from 1st April 2024 to 31st March, 2025. So your income statement gives you ROO, that is results of operations, and your cash flow statement is going to tell you the change in cash. So this is just a revisionary slide because this should be very clear to you what does each statement say and for what period. Okay, so now we are going over to the first one, which is a balance sheet. Okay, so a balance sheet, as the word says, balance. I think everybody has seen, what is a balance. There are 2 dishes and they need to balance at all times. So it's very simple. Can I spend more money than I have? Anybody can answer this simple question for me. Can I spend more than what I have?
No.
No? Yes.
We can if we take the loan.
Okay, but that also becomes a part of our, जैसे suppose I have a big pot, okay, उसमें मैं अपना पैसा डाल रही हूँ, okay, pot में मैंने अपना पैसा डाला, मैंने अपने friends से पैसा लेके डाला, okay, from family, friends, and suppose even the investor has put in that money in that pot. So I have a pot of money. Can I spend more than what I have in the pot? Certainly not. Okay, so on the left you see what we owe. O means क्या हमने देना है, okay, किसी को क्या देना है, and on the right you see what we own. Okay, so balance sheet is maintained on a simple accounting equation. Okay, we have a principle which is called as accounting, equation concept. Okay, I repeat this. It's called as accounting equation concept. So her equation में, as you're all familiar, there's a left side and there's a right side. So on the left hand side, there are liabilities plus owner's equity, and on the right hand you have assets. इसका मतलब ये हुआ कि जितने मेरे assets हैं वो या तो मैंने खुद के पैसों से क्रिएट करे हैं. अगर मेरे खुद के पैसे they are not sufficient enough, then I have borrowed money from somewhere, and that is how my pot has been created. So that whatever I owe to anybody, okay, which can be what I owe to myself, that is, my money, and what I owe to outsiders have to be equal to the assets, the total assets of the company. So therefore, the counting equation should always balance. So the left has to be equal to the right. Okay, and you can see the camera again over here. This is just a metaphor to again remind you that this is for on a particular date. So I think everybody knows, since you have already had a session with Professor Vashisht, that assets are the resources owned by an entity. Okay, ये asset ऐसे हैं कि मैं इसलिए create कर रही हूँ क्योंकि मैं अपने operations को carry on करूँ. Okay, ये ऐसे assets नहीं है कि मैं खरीदूंगी और मैं बेचूंगी. Okay, you are not a trader. ठीक है, all of you want to establish a venture and you want to continue with your operations. Why do you want to continue with your operations? Because you want some positive economic value. कि आप अभी काम करोगे, you're going to grow, and then it is going to create value, so you will earn some profits. So that is the basic purpose. So assets are defined as resources owned by an entity to produce positive economic value. Now, on the left-hand side, if you see, the first one which you are seeing is liabilities. This is the amount owed by entity to outsiders. It's very simple. It's my money and somebody else's money. So this somebody else's money is called as your liabilities. And your own money is naturally, आपका खुद का पैसा, your own hard-earned money, the money of your family, friends, and even what you have raised from, investors. Okay, so until in form of equity. Okay, so this is called as owner's equity. But if you borrow in the form of debt, then it will go back to what we call as, liabilities. So that is the difference between liability as owner's equity. Okay, so for example, in a company form of organization, the owner's equity, the owners are called as shareholders. Okay, while liabilities, in terms of liabilities, it can be a loan from a bank. Okay, it can be any other party. So they are called as your, creditors who have given money to you. Is it clear to all of you?
Yes.
Okay, please stop me wherever you have to ask a question. Okay, again, I'm showing you the balance sheet. As you can see over here on the top, there is DD. So it's date, month. Okay, and year. So as I've already told you, this is a picture, say, for 1st April 2024. So you are going to see what are the assets of the company and what are the liabilities and owners' equity on that date. Okay, so that date, can be 1st April 2024, 31st March 2025, which you are going to see in the future. So again, we are going to what we owe and what we own. So again, we start from the asset side. So the first over here, we are just seeing broad categories. I'm not going into finer details. Okay, the first is you can segregate the assets into current assets and non-current assets. It's very simple. To put it simply, what is the difference? See, anything which in accounting says current, it basically means for a period of 12 months, which is financial period. Okay, anything which is going to be which is an asset or a resource for a company for 12 months. Over a 12 months.
That can be converted into cash within a year, right?
Okay, so this is how I have defined cash and other assets that are expected to be converted to cash within a year. Okay, so those are called as your current assets. So other than that will all be your non-current assets. They're also called as your long-term investment that cannot be converted. They can be converted into cash. We are not saying that they cannot be converted, but there is no requirement for you to convert into cash because you want to carry on with your business, like your plant and equipment, okay, your building. Okay, so this is something which you want to use it to carry on with your venture. So these therefore are called as your long-term investments, and it cannot be converted into cash. I want to underline the word quickly. Okay, So the basic difference between current and non-current is current can be converted into cash quickly within a period of 12 months. But these assets take time to be converted into cash. But the basic idea is not to convert into cash, but use them for your business. Okay, so this is again the right hand side. On the left hand side, again, we are segregating into current, non-current, and actually your equity. Your current is something which is due to you within the period of 12 months. अगर आपने 6 महीने का ही किसी से पैसा लिया है तो 6 महीने बाद आपको उसको रिटर्न करना पड़ेगा. So since this is within the period of 12 months, so this is called as current. So and anything which you have to return back, suppose you have taken a loan for 5 years, okay, so you have to return back that money after 5 years, that becomes non-current liability. Okay, so a very intelligent question I'm going to ask you. Let me see who replies. Okay, I have taken loan for 5 years. Okay, part of the loan is due in this year. Okay, I have, that means मैंने जो उसकी terms and conditions इस तरह से रखी है कि every year मैं interest ही नहीं pay कर रही हूँ उस loan का, मैं part of that loan भी return back कर रही हूँ, so that मेरा interest, आपको सबको पता होगा, interest is always calculated on outstanding loan. Outstanding means जितना आपका loan amount रहता है. अगर आप part of the principal साथ साथ pay करते हो तो आपका interest component भी कम होता चला जाता है. ठीक है, तो अगर मैं part of the loan repay back कर रही हूँ, say within the 12 months, will I show it as my non-current liability or will I show it as my current liability? Yes, anybody? See, there is no assessment.
I think current liability.
Huh? Yes,
Current
yes.
It should be current liability.
Yes, Kirti, you want to say something?
Ma'am, non-current?
No, it will be current. जो आपका इस साल due है within the 12 months, even if it was earlier non-current, but part of that is due within the 12 months, that particular part will come under your current liability. Is this clear to all of you? Okay, so then very quickly, my non-current, I've already explained, long-term liabilities to be paid after the period of 1 year, and equity everybody understands. Okay, it's always at the value at which you had raised. So I think the balance sheet is pretty clear because I saw balance sheet and income statement in Professor Vashish's slides, so I thought you all know this very well, but koi baat nahi, whatever I can share, because you need to understand the basics if you have to project. Okay, so the next is income statement. It's called by so many other names, so you can see all those which I have put in. It's even called as profit and loss account. It's called as statement of financial performance, earnings report, statement of operation, whatever you might say. But आपको सिर्फ एक चीज याद रखनी है, मैंने इसको define करा है ROO. So can anybody now elaborate what is ROO? Yes, I've already discussed this. Anyone? Please don't. I'm not evaluating. गलत हो गया, कोई बात नहीं.
Return on operations.
Okay, it's called as results of operation, not returns, results of operation. ठीक है, ये मैंने आपको बोला, ये मेमोरी एड्स है, आपको कुछ याद नहीं रखना. आपने बैलेंस शीट में याद रखना है FP, फाइनेंशियल पोजीशन ऑफ अ कंपनी. इनकम स्टेटमेंट में याद रखना है ROO, रिजल्ट्स ऑफ ऑपरेशंस. वो प्रॉफिट भी हो सकते हैं, वो लॉस भी हो सकते हैं. और कैश फ्लो स्टेटमेंट के लिए ट्रायंगल एंड कैश, चेंज इन कैश. Okay, so that's it. Okay, very quickly, I'm just going to show you a simple, I'm using the word multi-step income statement. You've seen a very elaborate income statement with Professor Vashish, but I brought in here because हम लोगों को ये basics समझना बहुत ज़रूरी है. One of my students, okay, he started a startup. I have his financial statements with me. I'm not sharing. Naturally, he closed it up. He lost. There were losses, major losses for him. And I saw his financial statements. So I saw कि ज़्यादा items नहीं होते for a startup. There are not many items in a financial statement of a startup. So I don't need to go into great lengths telling you, things which you're not going to use. Okay, but I can always come back if you want more. Okay, so we start with revenue. Revenue is another name for sales. So these are net sales. Okay, so there are some sales. मैं बड़ा simple आपको बताती हूँ. एक gross sales होती है, एक net sales होती है. Gross sales है आपने कुछ बेचा और उस बेचने के related कुछ उससे कोई direct expenses हैं, अगर वो आप उससे reduce कर दोगे तो आपकी net sales आ जाएगी. आपके लिए बस it's good enough for you to know what are sales and what are revenues. Okay, they are the same. Then if you see, the first step over here is gross profit. If you reduce cost of goods sold from revenues, you get what is called as gross profit. Okay, anybody can tell me what is cost of goods sold?
This cost is associated with the producing a goods or जो बनाने में खर्चा आता है basically.
हाँ जी, रॉल जी बिल्कुल ठीक बोल रहे हैं आप. You're absolutely right. Okay, मैं क्योंकि टेक्निकल पर्सन हूँ, मैं थोड़ा सा आपको ज्यादा एड टू मेमोरीज दे देती हूँ.
मैं तो मैम बड़ी सिंपल भाषा जानता हूँ कि जिस भी खर्चे को हमें बनाने में आता है वो कॉस्ट ऑफ गुड्स सोल्ड है. I mean, वो that is
नहीं, पता क्या होता है कि आप बिल्कुल ठीक बोल रहे हो, but most of people get confused with cost of goods sold and operating expenses जो आप बाद में देख रहे हो. ग्रॉस प्रॉफिट के बाद ऑपरेटिंग एक्सपेंसेस रिड्यूस करने हैं तो आपके ऑपरेटिंग प्रॉफिट आते हैं. तो ऑपरेटिंग एक्सपेंसेस और कॉस्ट ऑफ गुड्स सोल्ड में क्या डिफरेंस है? Okay, I'll put it that way so that it's more.
Operations mean when you run something simple. रनिंग के टाइम पे जो खर्चा आएगा वो ऑपरेटिंग एक्सपेंस एंड जो बनाने की तरफ खर्चा आएगा वो दैट इज कॉस्ट ऑफ गुड्स सोल्ड.
ओके, जब आप बना रहे हो तो आपके वर्किंग एक्सपेंसेस तब नहीं होंगे.
अब रनिंग मींस ऑपरेशंस मीन व्हेन यू स्टार्ट वर्किंग ऑन समथिंग ना, वो डे टू डे खर्चे ऑपरेटिंग.
Very right, you're absolutely right. You're using logic in most of the cases. If you use logic, you can never go wrong. Okay, so मैं आपको सिंपल बता देती हूँ 3 चीजें. Okay, जो आप डायरेक्ट मटेरियल यूज कर रहे हो, डायरेक्ट मटेरियल like I'm manufacturing leather bags. Okay, leather bags. Okay, so जो लेदर मैं खरीद रही हूँ, ठीक है, वो बैग बनाने के लिए वो डायरेक्ट मटेरियल है. The second one is direct labor. Okay, जो मेरा कारीगर उसको बना रहा है, okay, उसकी जो wages है जो मैं पे कर रही हूँ वो मेरी direct labor है. Okay, so that is also going into my cost of goods sold. Okay, so वो भी मेरा cost of goods है. Third है indirect material and indirect labor, which we technically call in accounting as manufacturing overheads. Okay, उसमें मेरे सारे इनडायरेक्ट लेबर और इनडायरेक्ट मटेरियल आ जाएगा. इनडायरेक्ट मटेरियल वो होता है जो बड़ा माइनर मेरा खर्चा है उस प्रोडक्ट को बनाने के लिए. जैसे लेदर मेरा मेजर खर्चा है लेदर बैग को बनाने के लिए. ओके, सपोज आई एम यूजिंग सम काइंड ऑफ स्मॉल स्टड्स ऑन द बैग, okay, which is showing my logo. That's a very small expense vis-a-vis my total leather bag, so I treat it as indirect material. Okay, so that comes in my manufacturing overhead. Indirect labor कैसे होगा? जो main labor है वो तो मेरा direct labor है. पर suppose जहाँ पे मेरे bags बन रहे हैं वहाँ पे एक मैंने there is some person who's keeping a quality check of what leather is coming to my facility. So उसके जो wages होंगे वो मेरे indirect labor में आ जाएंगे और वो मेरी manufacturing overheads में चले जाएंगे, मेरी third pocket में चले जाएंगे. So I have first pocket direct material, direct labor and manufacturing overheads. So put in together, they are called as my cost of goods sold. Okay. Even your expenses like your depreciation of your, if you are using any machinery, will go into your cost of goods sold. So as Rolji said, right now operating expenses होते हैं जो मेरे हर रोज के खर्चे के लिए होते हैं. So for example, जितने मेरे administrative expenses हैं, मेरा बाहर चौकीदार है, time for small time once a week. Accountant comes to my facility to maintain my books of accounts. Okay, besides the general and administrative expenses, if I have any selling expenses, so
Rent, ma'am, सबसे जरूरी.
your rent. So this will come all in my operating expenses. So when I reduce my operating expenses, I will get what is called as my operating profit. अब इसमें से कुछ भी नॉन ऑपरेटिंग आइटम अगर मैं रिड्यूस करती हूँ, ओके, सो लाइक आई एम राइटिंग ऑफ माय सर्टेन एसेट, से अ फर्नीचर पीस, जिसपे मेरी कॉस्ट है, तो वो मेरी नॉन ऑपरेटिंग, वो मेरे ऑपरेशन से नहीं रिलेटेड है. ओके, आई हैव एन ऑफिस wherein there's a furniture which I'm writing off, and there's some related costs that will come in my non-operating expense. There can be even non-operating gain. Suppose I sell that off, और मेरे को उस even टूटी हुई चेयर से अगर कुछ पैसे मिलते हैं, that will be my non-operating gain. So I will get, I will get what is called my earnings before interest and tax. Then I'm going to reduce my interest expense if I've taken a loan. If I haven't taken any loan, there would be no interest expense. Okay, so that will give me earnings before tax. If I'm going to reduce my, taxes, I will get what is called my net profit. So the two, if you see what are the steps over here, calculation of gross profit, operating profit, EBIT, this is a short which we use for earnings before interest and tax, EBT, okay, which is earnings before tax, and last is we call as net profit, net income. I also call it as PAT. PAT means, profit after tax. Okay, so these are interchangeably, but I hope you've understood the basic, there are steps in calculation of your net profit. I hope it is clear. Any questions here?
Yes, ma'am. एक question है.
हाँ जी, बोलिए.
जी मैम, फॉर एग्जाम्पल आपने अभी एक लेदर बैग का एग्जांपल दिया था.
हाँ जी.
ठीक है. So let us say that I manufacture the leather
Can you
bag.
introduce yourself? I've seen you sitting behind Sadaf from since morning.
मैं डॉक्टर सदफ का कोवर्कर हूँ, प्रतीक सानी.
Okay. प्रदीप जी, हाँ जी बोलिए.
तो एक क्वेश्चन ये आया कि let us say there is logistics involved in actually sending the product to the end user जिसने buy किया मेरे से. So where does that logistics cost, enter into the? Is it part of the cost of goods sold, or is it part of operational expenses? I imagine it's part of goods sold, but
you are basically talking about logistic. That means any expenses on transportation.
Yes.
For getting the raw material.
No, for sending out the finished good.
Okay, for selling out the finished goods. So if the terms and conditions are so that this has to be borne by the manufacturer, okay, then it will be part of cost of goods sold.
Cost of goods sold
incorporated in the
operating
cost
expenses
of your, manufacturing.
Right.
Okay.
Right. Also, one more question, small bit. इस list के अंदर EBIT DA कहाँ पे आता है?
EBIT? EBITDA. Okay. Now, in case of, you're talking about depreciation and amortization. Okay. So if you see, operating in terms of your operating expenses, fine. If I want to, because I'll give you why you are asking this question. First of all, is the fact that, your income statement is prepared on an accrual basis of accounting, while your cash flow statements are prepared on your cash basis. For everybody, what is the difference between accrual and cash? Let me explain. Your cash flow statement is prepared on your cash basis. That basically means आप उसमें रिकॉर्ड तभी करोगे जब कैश इन होगा और कैश आउट होगा. ठीक है, बट सारे बिजनेसेस ऐसे नहीं चलते. बहुत सारे बिजनेसेस क्रेडिट पे चलते हैं. क्रेडिट मींस आप बेच रहे हो जिसके लिए आपको इमीडिएटली कैश नहीं मिलता. आपका जो बायर है वो कहता है मैं 6 महीने बाद आपको इसकी पेमेंट करूंगा. सिमिलरली आपने जिससे लेदर प्रिक्योर करा, वो कहता है, आप उसको कहते हो कि मेरे पास अभी सिर्फ 50% पेमेंट मैं अभी दे सकता हूँ. 50% पेमेंट मैं आपको 6 महीने, जैसे टर्म्स एंड कंडीशंस हो, 9 महीने या सिर्फ 3 महीने बाद पे करूँ. तो इस में क्या होता है कि आप कैश फ्लो स्टेटमेंट में तो आप ये नहीं रिकॉर्ड करते हो कि आप क्रेडिट पे सेल कर रहे हो, बिकॉज वो तो सिर्फ कैश बेसिस पे होगा। पर जो प्रिंसिपल ऑफ इनकम स्टेटमेंट है वो है कि जब भी आप कुछ बेच रहे हो, सपोज आई सेल 100 लेदर बैग्स, ओके, एंड 50% of them are on credit, I have to record it as my sales because I have made sales but for which I have as yet to collect cash. So उसके लिए उसका काउंटर एंट्री, बिकॉज हम अकाउंट्स में हमेशा डबल एंट्री करते हैं, ओके। सो जो तो कैश के लिए आप बेच रहे हो उसमें तो कैश इन आ गया, ठीक है, पर जो आप क्रेडिट पे बेच रहे हो उसको आप, क्योंकि वो आप रिसीव करोगे, that is called as receivable, okay। so आपका एक न्यू आइटम आ जाता है आपके फाइनेंशियल स्टेटमेंट्स में जिसको हम बोलते हैं अकाउंट्स रिसीवेबल, ओके। अकाउंट्स रिसीवेबल का यही मतलब है कि आपने कुछ क्रेडिट पे बेचा जिसके लिए आपने अभी कैश नहीं रिसीव की, ओके। So that is the basic difference between income statement and cash flow statement. Now coming over to the question which Pradeep ji had asked. Okay, now there are two things. One is called as depreciation. The second one is called as amortization. Okay, depreciation is, for example, I'm using a plant or I'm using furniture or building जिसको मैं use कर रही हूँ. Okay, suppose I'm using a machinery whose life is 10 years. Okay, I know after 10 years it will cease to exist. So I will have to, replace it with some other machinery. So your entire accounting is based on what concept we call as conservatism. Conservative means I will not anticipate profits but provide for all possible losses. क्योंकि मैं हर साल वो मशीनरी यूज कर रही हूँ, that part of the machinery, the value goes down because in your books of accounts अगर वो मैंने मशीनरी 1 लाख की खरीदी, ओके, और उसकी लाइफ 10 years है, ओके, वैसे तो हम रिटन डाउन वैल्यू मेथड ऑफ यूज करते हैं ऑफ डेप्रिसिएशन अंडर द इनकम टैक्स एक्ट। बट अगर मैं सिंपली आपको कहूँ कि अगर आप 1 लाख रुपए को और उसकी लाइफ सपोज 10 साल है, 10 से डिवाइड करूं तो कितना अमाउंट हो गया? When you divide 1 lakh by 10,
10,000.
10,000. So मैंने every year from that asset I will reduce 10,000. Okay, so that is the part of depreciation which I am providing. Fine.
That's the loss in current value of the asset per year.
Per year. इसमें बहुत निटी ग्रिटीज है, यू रीवैल्यू द एसेट एंड सी कि उतना रिड्यूस हो रहा है कि नहीं हो रहा, मेरे को डेप्रिसिएशन मेथड अब चेंज करना है, उसकी लाइफ 12 साल तो नहीं हो गई 10 साल से क्योंकि मैंने अच्छी तरह रिपेयर्स एंड मेंटेनेंस करी है। ऑन द अदर हैंड इट कैन बी क्योंकि आप उसकी प्रॉपर रिपेयर्स मेंटेनेंस कर ही नहीं रहे हो तो उसकी लाइफ 10 साल भी नहीं रही, 8 साल रह गई। तो आप हर साल अपने एसेट को रीवैल्यू करते रहते हो कि जो मैं डेप्रिसिएशन प्रोवाइड कर रहा हूँ या कर रही हूँ वो ठीक है कि नहीं। अब ये सिमिलरली अमोर्टाइजेशन आप प्रोवाइड करते हो फॉर इंटेंजिबल एसेट्स। ओके, आई होप एवरीबडी नोज व्हाट इज इंटेंजिबल एसेट्स। जितने आपके पेटेंट्स, कॉपीराइट्स, ट्रेडमार्क्स, सो ऑन एंड सो फोर्थ है, वो सारे
जिसकी डिफाइंड वैल्यू नहीं है, कोई एसेट जिसकी डिफाइंड वैल्यू नहीं है, which is more subjective than anything else.
No.
No?
Accounting is very clear, Pradeep ji. Anything which is subjective will never ever be recorded in your books of accounts.
So then I'm lost a little.
That is the difference. अब मैं आपको बड़ा minute difference बताती हूँ, आप इतने question अच्छे पूछ रहे हो ना, it's very difficult for a teacher to hold on. हम accounting में differentiate करते हैं research और development को. And I think everybody understand what is the difference between the research stage and subsequent development stage. आप रिसर्च स्टेज के जितने एक्सपेंसेस होते हैं ना, जितना खर्चा है वो आप एज एन एक्सपेंस शो करते हो हमेशा, हर साल जितना आपका, बिकॉज आप श्योर नहीं हो ना कि कोई प्रोडक्ट भी डेवलप हो पाएगा कि नहीं, या सर्विस भी कोई डेवलप हो पाएगी, प्रोसेस भी कोई डेवलप हो पाएगा कि नहीं। बट जैसे आप डेवलपमेंट में अपना प्रोटोटाइप टेस्ट कर लेते हो, दैट मीन्स इट्स रेडी फॉर सेल इन द मार्केट। Anything which is ready for sale in the market, okay, market, I'm saying, you can determine what is its price. So saying intangible assets are subjective is not right. I'll tell you with another example. Branding, brand कहते हैं ना, brand. Okay, brand never ever comes in the books of accounts. आप कहो मेरी करोड़ों की ब्रांड है, वो कभी भी बुक्स ऑफ अकाउंट्स में नहीं आएगी, क्योंकि वो सब्जेक्टिव है. पेटेंट्स, कॉपीराइट, ट्रेडमार्क्स फॉर एग्जांपल, दे आर नॉट सब्जेक्टिव. इसका कुछ मार्केट डिटरमिन बेसिस पे आप इसको वैल्यू कर सकते हो. ओके, सो कुछ भी, एक तो बेसिकली आप ये क्लियर कर लो, कुछ भी जो सब्जेक्टिव है आपके फाइनेंशियल स्टेटमेंट्स में नहीं आएगा. अब मैं एक और बात, एक क्वेश्चन पूछती हूँ. आप सबने गुडविल सुना है? व्हाट इज गुडविल? एनीबॉडी, व्हाट इज गुडविल? प्रदीप जी, क्या होता है गुडविल?
भाईचारा.
हाँ जी, रिचा आप बताओ.
मैम भाईचारे में जो कर लेते हैं काम.
माय गुडनेस, देयर इज नो भाईचारा इन अकाउंट्स.
It
Okay,
is
I'll tell you.
it is one of example of intangible kind of asset. It is an example of intangible. जो goodwill is kind of a reputation that you have developed over the period. And
ये very right. हाँ जी, रॉल जी, और बोलिए.
नहीं कोई बात नहीं. You can continue that.
अब ऐसे है कि काउंटिंग में रेपुटेशन और भाईचारा का कोई मतलब नहीं है. तो हम बुक्स ऑफ अकाउंट्स में गुडविल कब रिकॉर्ड करते हैं? ये आपको प्रदीप जी ये आंसर करेगा क्वेश्चन जो आप पूछ रहे हो. हम तब रिकॉर्ड करेंगे.
Like a donation or something like
no, not at all, please. No donations. Okay, हम फाइनेंस में सिर्फ एक चीज बोलते हैं, there are no free lunches in accounts. हर चीज के पीछे पैसा, every पैसा counts. आप अगर आपका बिजनेस है, आपने सुना होगा ना, बड़ी कितने सारे स्टार्टअप्स हैं which are taken over by big companies. जो 5 करोड़ का था उसके लिए 50 करोड़ मिले, उसकी नेट एसेट वैल्यू सिर्फ 5 करोड़ थी, पर उन्होंने खरीद लिया 50 करोड़ में. तो जो 50 करोड़ में से आप 5 करोड़ माइनस करते हो ना, जो रिमेनिंग अमाउंट होता है वो गुडविल होता है. तो जिसने खरीदा है वो अपने बुक्स, जो भी गुडविल, जब, और गुडविल तभी रिकॉर्ड होता है जब बेचा जाता है. उससे पहले बुक्स ऑफ अकाउंट्स में कभी भी गुडविल वाला फिगर ही नहीं आएगा. अगर आपने 5 करोड़ के बिजनेस के लिए 50 करोड़ दिए, तो आपने एक्स्ट्रा नेट एसेट वैल्यू उसके 45 करोड़ दिए, तब आपकी बुक में गुडविल एज एन एसेट आ जाएगा ऑफ 45 करोड़.
तो मैम दैट मींस कि जिस टाइम पे हमने खरीदा था परचेज प्राइस में से, जब हम उसकी मार्केट प्राइस को, जो आज की प्राइस है उसकी, उसको माइनस करते हैं, तब गुडविल आती है.
बिल्कुल सही. जितना आप एक्सेस पे कर रहे हो ना, ओवर एंड अबव द नेट एसेट वैल्यू ऑफ द बिजनेस, दैट इज कॉल्ड एज गुडविल. तो ये आपके अच्छे क्वेश्चंस का नतीजा है कि जो मैंने प्लान भी नहीं किया था वो भी मैं बता रही हूँ. Okay, so coming back to Pradeep ji's question, he had asked me about, earning before interest, depreciation and amortization. अगर आप अपने expenses को में आप depreciation and amortization क्लब करके, जैसे मैंने यहाँ पे क्लब कर दिया और आप वो लाइन आइटम मिसिंग है, तो जहाँ पे मैंने नॉन ऑपरेटिंग आइटम्स एक्सक्लूडिंग इंटरेस्ट एंड टैक्सेस है ना, उससे पहले आप इसको अर्निंग्स अगर डेप्रिसिएशन एंड अमॉर्टाइजेशन सेपरेट शो करके आप रिड्यूस करो, तो आप इसको इसमें एक एडिशनल स्टेप ऐड कर सकते हो. बट आई थिंक एवरीबडी नाउ अंडरस्टैंड व्हाट इज डेप्रिसिएशन एंड अमॉर्टाइजेशन. ओके, I hope everybody understands.
So just to make it clear,
and amortization
समझ में नहीं आया.
Amortization, if just to make it clear, amortization is the
only
making
on intangible assets. It's just like depreciation, but only on intangible assets. And depreciation is only on fixed assets of depreciation nature. अब आपको एक और smart question. Land पे depreciation होता है कि नहीं? वो फिक्स एसेट है, लैंड भी. डेप्रिसिएशन होता है?
टिपिकली अप्रिसिएशन होता है.
वेरी इंटेलिजेंट.
नेगेटिव डिप्रिसिएशन होता है.
लैंड सिर्फ एक ही ऐसा फिक्स एसेट है जिसपे डेप्रिसिएशन होता ही नहीं है. तो आप जितना मर्जी लैंड खरीद के रख लो, उस पे कभी भी डेप्रिसिएशन नहीं होगा, उस पे हमेशा हम कुछ भी नहीं शो करते. जैसे मैं बिजनेस के लिए अगर लैंड ले रही हूँ, आई शो इट एट इट्स व्हाटएवर प्राइस आई हैव बॉट, पर उस पे कभी डेप्रिसिएशन नहीं होता. बाकी सब चीजों पे, प्लांट, ओके, इक्विपमेंट, ओके, प्रॉपर्टी, बिल्डिंग पे भी डेप्रिसिएशन होता है. ओके, आपके प्लांट पे भी डेप्रिसिएशन होता है, इक्विपमेंट फर्नीचर पे भी डेप्रिसिएशन होता है. सो डेप्रिसिएशन सिर्फ डेप्रिशिएबल एसेट्स के लिए होता है, एंड अमोर्टाइजेशन इन सिमिलर, instead of calling it depreciation, since it is used for only intangible assets, it is called as amortization. I hope it is clear to all of you. Yes, Sadak, you wanted to ask some question?
Yeah, actually, I was wondering, nowadays, as technology is, such a powerful thing, I think in every venture we people use technology. So having softwares and other materials like that for running a business, in which category they will fall? I think
I'll just tell you. Can you hold on? I'll answer your question. I have a slide because I knew that there will be a smart question on this. Thank you, Sada, for such a lovely question. I have prepared a special slide wherein I'm going to show you what is the rate of depreciation for computer and computer software. Okay, because this may changed of technology is very high. Okay, I'll show you. Please wait. I hope I've answered most of the questions. The ones which I haven't answered, जब मैं projections पे आ जाऊंगी, I think तब तक, but I hope everybody has understood the basics. Please say yes. It will just take a second for you to unmute because I can't see all of you.
Yep.
Okay,
Yes,
thank
ma'am.
you.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay,
Yes,
now
ma'am.
we come over to the bathtub. Okay, this is nothing but your, because we want to briefly discuss about cash flow statements. I've told you cash in and cash out. I think सब अपने घरों में रहते हैं, तो सबके घरों पे ऊपर पानी की टंकी है कि नहीं? Yes. Okay. So, for example, the water supply is very erratic in your area. So you go in the morning 9 o'clock and see what is the level of water in your, water tank. Okay. And during the day, there is a water supply and it fills up. Fine. At the end of the day, you go again and check up what is the, water level. Okay. It goes down a little bit. So the same, if this is the same, same concept we use in determining the cash flows. मेरे पास 1,000 rupees थे, दिन में, that is my, initial water level. Some cash has come in like water. Suppose I've got 500 rupees more. My level has increased to 1,500. At the end of the day, the water level, because I started using the water, it is coming down and I'm left with 800 rupees. That means 1,500 minus 800 is to the extent I have used the cash, which is my change in cash. Okay, and which is going to be recorded in the cash flow statement. I hope with the help of a metaphor, the bathtub and the water tank, it's clear to everybody what is the purpose of a cash flow statement. Yes? Okay?
yes.
Okay. I'm a little bit more on the cash flow statement. I've already told you cash flow statement and income statement are like a reel. Okay, they're like, for the period. So आप देख सकते हो cash flow, there's a green arrow. That means the water level in my tank is increasing. And when I'm using the money, my water level in my tank is decreasing. Okay, so the water level is basically telling me like on 1st of April 2024, what is the water level? Okay, वो मुझे बता रहा है बैलेंस शीट में एक आइटम होता है एसेट्स में कैश. Okay, it's telling me what is the water level. और जो बैलेंस शीट एट द 31st March 2025 है वो भी मुझे एक वाटर लेवल दिखा रहा है. तो मेरे पास 2 वाटर लेवल्स हैं, तो मैं चेंज, I think everybody has already understood. I can easily find out what has been the change. And that change is going to be captured by the cash flow statement. The only new thing which I'm going to tell you about the cash flow statement is जो change हुआ है वो किसके कारण हुआ है. वो मेरी ऑपरेटिंग एक्टिविटीज के कारण हुआ है, मेरी इन्वेस्टिंग एक्टिविटीज के कारण हुआ है, या मेरी फाइनेंसिंग एक्टिविटीज के कारण हुआ है. So very quickly, although I'm going to show you in another slide, details about this, operating, as Mr. Rawl was saying before, applying his logic is always related to my major business operations. अगर मैं leather bag बना रही हूँ, मेरा basic, business operation है manufacturing of leather bags. और इसके ऑपरेटिंग एक्टिविटीज के लिए मुझे कैश फ्लो कहाँ से पता लगेगा? मेरे इनकम स्टेटमेंट से. बट माइंड यू, आई हैव ऑलरेडी सेड, इनकम स्टेटमेंट इज ऑन अक्रूअल बेसिस एंड योर कैश फ्लो स्टेटमेंट इज ऑन कैश बेसिस. सो जितना क्रेडिट कंपोनेंट है मेरा इनकम स्टेटमेंट का, वो मैं कैश फ्लो स्टेटमेंट में दिखाई ही नहीं सकती, बिकॉज इसमें सिर्फ कैश चलेगा. सेकेंड, जो मैं डेप्रीसिएशन अमोर्टाइजेशन वहां पे शो कर रही हूँ इनकम स्टेटमेंट में, यहाँ पे नहीं शो कर सकती, क्योंकि डेप्रीसिएशन अमोर्टाइजेशन तो मैं अपने कंजर्वेटिज्म प्रिंसिपल को अडॉप्ट करते हुए प्रोवाइड फॉर कर रही हूँ. एक्चुअली depreciation and amortization are shown as expenses in my income statement, but actually उसके कारण मेरा कोई भी cash outflow नहीं होता. My cash doesn't go out when I'm providing for depreciation and amortization. Is basically because accounting conservative है, okay? इसीलिए उसके लिए मैं एक expense, because I'm using that asset and I would like to show that asset at its right book value, इसलिए मैं उसमें depreciation and amortization provide for करती हूँ. Investing activities, I think all of us understand. Whether you're investing in equity, in debt, or in, say, I'm investing in property, okay, which is my capital investment. So जितने उससे regarding, अगर मैं suppose e-shares लेती हूँ, जितने मैं पैसे उसको खरीदने के लिए लगाती हूँ, that is my cash outflow. अगर मैं उसी shares को बेच दूंगी, that will be my cash. My cash. Please unmute yourself and, please interact with me. If I sell my shares, cash is going to go out or is going to come in?
Cash in.
Coming in.
Very good, Richa. Saksham, good. Please, I like it when you unmute. Okay. So my cash is going to come in. Very good. The last activity here is financing. अगर मैंने पैसे रेज करने हैं कहीं से, that is called as my financing activity. तो मेरे पास दो ही सोर्स है, या तो मैं इक्विटी रेज करूंगी या मैं डेट रेज करूंगी. ठीक है. सपोज मैंने Yes. Dr. Gauri, any question with regards to that?
No, ma'am. Sorry.
Okay. So when I raise funds, say I take a loan of 5 lakhs, so my cash is going to come in because I have got those funds. जब मैं उसको repay back करूंगी, तो cash will go out. So I hope everybody has understood. Cash flow statement is basically looking into cash going out and cash coming in, whether it's on account of my operations or financing activity or investing activity. Is it okay? All good?
Yes.
Yes, ma'am.
Now this is a very interesting exercise, क्योंकि आपने प्रोफेसर विशिष्ट के साथ रिटर्न ऑन कैपिटल एम्प्लॉयड रेशियो कर लिया. सबने कर लिया ना? Yes. Okay. But उन्होंने जो करवाया वो सिर्फ एक was partial picture. आपको ये समझने की बिल्कुल जरूरत नहीं है, बट मेरे को फर्ज बनता है मेरा आपको अवेयर करवाने का. There is a ratio called as return on investment. This is the most important ratio for any business. But इसके 4 variants हैं, और आपको डॉक्टर वशिष्ठ ने लास्ट वाला वेरिएंट ही करवाया है. Just for your knowledge, what are the other variants? The first is called as return on equity. This is very important for equity shareholders कि जितना उन्होंने बिजनेस में पैसा लगाया उसका उनको क्या रिटर्न मिल रहा है. So you can see it is net income divided by equity. The second most important return on investment ratio is called as return on assets. So it's again net income by average total assets. Why this is very important? I hope everybody understand. There was a question Sadak had asked about computers and computer softwares. आपको सबको पता है सारे बिजनेसेस में इक्वल कैपिटल इन्वेस्टमेंट नहीं. कैपिटल इन्वेस्टमेंट मतलब इतना आप फर्नीचर, प्लांट, इक्विपमेंट पे जो खर्चा है. Very simple putting it. You can tell me which business has more asset. I'm giving you an example. Does an iron and steel company will have more assets, or an IT company will have more assets in terms of value?
Iron and steel company.
Very good. So जैसे iron and steel company है ना, उनको ये return on assets, I'm also telling you the relevance of the ratio is for whom. So उनके लिए जितने capital intensive industries होती हैं या companies होती हैं, उनके लिए ROA calculate करना बहुत important होता है. Then I'm differentiating between invested capital and the last one, which is capital employed. मेरा जितना total capital है, okay, how much of that I'm investing. Okay, so invested capital is a part of my total capital. So what is my total capital? The last one. Okay, it is my debt and equity. जो मैंने वो pot बनाया था, उसमें कितना पैसा गया in that pot is my capital, employed. उसमें से मैं कितना invest करती हूँ is my invested capital. I hope everybody is understood. At the very beginning we had said कि हम पैसा इकट्ठा कर रहे हैं pot में. तो जो spot में जितना पैसा हमने इकट्ठा किया, that is capital employed. So we want to find out return on capital employed. Okay, it can be calculated in two ways. या तो EBIT divided by total assets minus current liabilities, or you can even write it as EBIT divided by equity plus long-term debt. Okay, that is my return on capital employed. जितना आप पैसा किसी भी टाइम इकट्ठा करते हो, जरूरी नहीं है सारा ही आपने इन्वेस्ट कर दिया. So that is the third one, return on invested capital. This is EBIT 1 minus whatever is the tax rate, your long-term debt, equity, minus all non-operating cash. Okay, so that gives me return on capital, invested capital. So you don't need to I'll give you this template, but what I'm basically trying to tell you is if some investor asks you what is return on investment, it does not just mean return on capital employed. Okay, there are various variants. There can be return on equity, return on asset based on the nature of your business. Okay, आपका venture का क्या nature है? अगर ये बड़ा capital intensive है, तो आप return on asset जरूर निकालोगे. जो investor आप में पैसा लगा रहा है, उसके लिए return on equity बहुत important है. And naturally, you've been told return on capital employed. Now the next slide is a question for everybody. Okay, I'm just coming to it. Okay, fine. Now this is a question for you. Okay, the question is, what I have done is, आपने सबने Professor Vashisht के साथ return on capital employed कर लिया, ठीक है? आपने कर लिया तो आप मुझे ये बताओ कि आप you can see, all of you can see on the left, what I have done is जो formula आपको Professor Vashisht ने करवाया था, return on capital employed, that is EBIT divided by capital employed. Okay. If I divide and multiply the numerator and denominator by net sales, will it make any difference? Yes, everybody?
No, the equation is balanced.
Okay, it doesn't make any difference. But when I divide EBIT by net sales, okay, on the right hand side, can you all see return on sales? Okay, I'm asking you a question, please.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so this is, if you divide EBIT by net sales, it comes to return on sales. When I divide net sales by capital employed, so on the right, can you see sales by capital employed in green on the top?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, this is called as capital turnover ratio. Okay, capital turnover. अब आपको ऑलरेडी पता है EBIT में मैंने नीचे फॉर्मूला लिख दिया, EBIT कैसे कैलकुलेट करा, अभी आपने इनकम स्टेटमेंट भी देख लिया है उससे रिलेटेड. Okay, so you can see EBIT starts with revenues, but उसमें major component क्या है? Cost of goods sold, selling and general administrative expenses. Okay, depreciation भी है उसमें. Okay, and interest if there is any other non-operating income. Fine. अगर आप right hand में देखो, आपको पता लगता है there is inventory turnover, okay? अब आपके जो कैपिटल एम्प्लॉयड है वो टोटल एसेट्स माइनस करंट लाइबिलिटीज है, टोटल एसेट्स में आपके करंट एसेट्स भी आ जाते हैं जैसे इन्वेंट्रीज, ओके, जैसे आपके जितने आपके अकाउंट्स रिसीवेबल, फाइन। एंड उसके अलावा आपके फिक्स एसेट्स में आप देखोगे वहाँ पे PPE लिखा हुआ है, दैट इज नथिंग बट plant, property and equipment, fine? Now there's one question over here which I need to ask. What is common between all these? What is the common factor in terms of what you observe on this slide? Anybody?
Inflow of cash.
Okay. Sorry.
We ultimately want to find out the profit we are getting on our investments.
Okay. Okay, if I say, give your answer in one word, then
It's return and turnover.
okay, very good. So on your left is basically, your ratios, which are telling you about your return, any aspect on the, of return on sales, while on your right, it is telling you about your turnover ratios. So on the left, whatever is in blue are called as your margin ratios. And on the right, whatever is there, it's called as your turnover ratios. Okay, but I'm saying just give me one word in terms of commonality between what you see on this slide.
Everything depends upon the sales, basically. ROI.
Very good. Who said that? I'm just stopping in between. I don't know why I can't see you.
Everything depends upon the sales. It's a common logic. कोई भी चीज खरीदी जब उसको बेचा, that gives you ROI. अगर for example अगर कोई प्रॉपर्टी मैंने 6 लाख रुपए की ली, उसको मैंने 9 लाख रुपए में बेचा 1 साल के बाद, अगर मुझे उसका ROI निकालना है तो 9 minus 6, 3 lakhs divided by 9 lakh into 100, that gives you the ROI, return on investment. सेम अगर कोई मैंने मार्केटिंग कैंपेन अपनी कंपनी के लिए चलाई, उसके लिए मैंने 2 लाख रुपया लगाया, उससे मुझे 6 लाख बिजनेस आया, तो मैंने 6 लाख में से 2 लाख निकालकर 4 लाख जो मैंने प्रॉफिट बनाया डिवाइडेड बाय जो मेरा ओरिजिनल कॉस्ट लगा था into 100, that gives me ROI. 40% ROI, 200% ROI in that cases. This is what I'm मतलब बेचने से ही आपको पता चलेगा sales is an important part here.
Very good, Rolji. Thank you so much. Okay, so this was just a revisionary exercise, which I thought probably you knew before we start projections. As Rolji has very rightly said, the genesis behind all forecasting starts, that was what I wanted to tell you. Okay, मैं आपको वो ratios नहीं दिखाना चाहती थी, मैं ये दिखाना चाहती थी कि जो भी आपने काम करना है, हम जैसे we teach our management student,
ये मैम ये फॉर्मूलाज अपने आप ही लॉजिकली बन जाएंगे जब आप रियल वर्ल्ड में इनको अप्लाई करोगे, कितने की चीज खरीदी, कितने का बेचा और किस तरीके से रिटर्न ऑन इन्वेस्टमेंट आएगी. तो रियल वर्ल्ड में सेल्स एंड परचेज यू नीड टू अंडरस्टैंड एंड प्रॉफिट, आई थिंक.
Very rightly said, Rolji. You are such a great help in terms of what I am doing. So हम students को हमेशा एक ही चीज सिखाते हैं, हर चीज की बेसिस होती है सेल्स. आप because you don't want to be in losses, you want to, and you don't want inventory. I hope everybody understands inventory. Yes. What is inventory?
मैम जो इन्वेस्टमेंट हमने किसी एसेट में कर दी है, बट वी आर वेटिंग कि वो बिक जाए और हम उससे प्रॉफिट ले पाए.
तो सक्षम इसको और अच्छी तरह अगर एक्सप्लेन करना हो सक्षम, इसमें हम ऐसे कहते हैं कि एक तो हमारे होते हैं फिक्स एसेट, ठीक है. इन्वेंट्री हमेशा हमारी करंट एसेट होती है. दैट मीन्स जैसे मैंने लेदर का रॉ मटेरियल लिया, जो रॉ मटेरियल है वो इन्वेंट्री मैंने सपोज नेचुरली मैं उतना ही थोड़ा लूंगी कि जितनी मैंने बनानी है, मैं थोड़ा सा एक्स्ट्रा लूंगी बिकॉज आई वांट सम सेफ्टी स्टॉक. मैं वो लेदर बैग्स बना रही हूँ, वो पार्टली कन्वर्ट हुए हैं इनटू लेदर बैग, तो मेरा वो वर्क इन प्रोग्रेस है, तो वो भी मेरी इन्वेंट्री है. जब मैं उसको कंप्लीटली बना लेती हूँ, ठीक है, मेरा बन गया लेदर बैग, तो कंप्लीटली फिनिश प्रोडक्ट है, वो भी मेरी इन्वेंट्री है. तो जो इन्वेंट्री है वो 3 टाइप की होती है, माय रॉ मटेरियल, माय वर्क इन प्रोग्रेस एंड माय फिनिश गुड्स. माइंड यू, आप इन्वेंट्री जो क्रिएट कर रहे हैं वो सेल्स के लिए क्रिएट कर रहे हैं, आपने उसको बेचना है. ओके, इन naturally in a service company there is no inventory. Okay, so what you're providing some kind of a service, so that is a major difference. But for any projection, the first figure which you need to project are your sales. Once you have projected your sales, you need to estimate your costs, and you have to build assumptions. For a startup, it's very, very important to build assumptions, क्योंकि आपके पास कोई भी historical data नहीं है, आप fresh शुरू कर रहे हो, आपको शुरू से you have to start from scratch. So when your slate is completely empty, you do not know what, you have to start, totally fresh. So you have to build up these forecasts based on your assumptions. Based on your sales and expenses, you can easily then project your income statement based on your assets, which are current or fixed, or your liabilities and equity. You will build up the balance sheet. And lastly, cash flow statement is the most easiest to prepare, because आपको पता है इनकम स्टेटमेंट अक्रूवल बेसिस पे है, आपने कैश फ्लो स्टेटमेंट कैश बेसिस पे बनानी है, तो जितनी अक्रूवल एंड आपकी रिलेटेड एक्सपेंसेस हैं या वर्किंग कैपिटल चेंजेस हैं, अगर आप इनकम स्टेटमेंट से रिमूव कर दोगे तो आपकी कैश फ्लो स्टेटमेंट इजीली बन जाएगी. इसके अलावा टेल यू लिटिल बिट अबाउट sensitivity analysis and minefield. So from here we are actually going to start with the projections of the financial statement. Okay, so the first one, as I've already told you, is you have to start from forecasting of sales. Okay, so there are 2 approaches for forecasting of sales. One is called as a top-down approach, the other is called as a bottom-up approach. I think I have already seen somebody telling you about TAM, SAM, and SOM. Okay, yes?
Yes.
Yes, Richa, what is the full form of TAM, SAM, and SOM?
TAM is total addressable market. SAM is serviceable addressable market. And I think SOM is serviceable
obtainable market.
Obtainable market.
Yes. Okay, very right. So your TAM is total available market, your SAM is serviceable available market, and your SOM is serviceable obtainable market. Okay, so the left hand side, the top down approach, is a macro perspective. Macro means bigger, okay, and then you narrow it to your micro perspective. And your bottom up approach is you start with small and then you build up the macro, view. So this is how you go. So in your top down approach, your SOM, okay, so if you have understood your, how do you determine TAM, SAM, and you ultimately determine SOM, which is equal to the sales target as it represents the value of the market share, one, that means you want to capture, that will be the basis for determining what will be your sales. Typically, industry estimates, so that is a broader perspective, okay, is taken as a starting point, and then you narrow it down to your particular business, okay, depending on what is the nature of your business. So for forecasting of your sales figure, the best way to do is to determine what is your serviceable obtainable market and determine what sales are you anticipating to make, say, okay, if you're trying to project, that means you're going to project it for 3 months, 6 months, 9 months, and 12 months. So this is called as your short-term projections. If you do it for then 15 months, so on and so forth. After a year, 12 months, it will start building up towards your long-term projections. So sales can be determined using SOM, or sales can also be determined using bottom-up method, wherein you're having a micro view here. It is usually going to happen for a startup, okay, which is coming out with something very unique, and to build it up from, so you know your business well, you have done some kind of a customer survey. So based on your internal business, specific data which you have collected, based on that, you're going to make projections as to what is going to be your sales. So this is the most important, because if you're going to fail here, your entire projections are going to fail. Why I'm saying that? I'm saying that basically on account of the fact कि आप जितना sales forecast करोगे, अगर आप suppose कोई product manufacture करना चाह रहे हो, उतना ही product manufacture करोगे, ठीक है? क्योंकि अगर आपकी sales कम है और आप manufacture ज़्यादा कर रहे हो, तो आप तो अपना capital पहले ही lock करके बैठ गए हो, ठीक है? अगर आपकी सेल्स इतनी है और आप कम बना रहे हो, तो आपकी डिमांड इतनी होगी, एंड इट विल सेंड रॉन्ग सिग्नल्स टू योर कस्टमर कि आप मार्केट तो कर रहे हो, बट आपके पास इतनी इन्वेंट्री नहीं है उसको बैकअप करने के लिए. ओके, सो इट्स वेरी इंपॉर्टेंट दैट योर प्रोडक्शन शुड मैच विद योर sales. So that is very, very important. So if you fail in projecting your sales right, your entire projections are going to collapse. So it's very important to project your sales, right, in a right manner. In most of the cases, there is no silo approach adopted in forecasting of sales, as I've shown you on the left and the right. Most of the startups who are doing well, when they initially started, they have used both the approaches. They have used both top down and bottom up, because if your business is unique, based on your customer potential and customer survey, so on and so forth, you're going to use both methods in terms of projection of your sales. So as I've already told you, this is the first step, and you have to be very careful in terms of projecting how much you're going to sell sometime in the future. So once this is completed, your forecasting of sales is completed, then you need to estimate your costs. So again, the TAM, SAM, SOM model is very helpful in determining what are going to be your sales targets and determining all your costs, okay, which are going to go in manufacturing your product, or if you're coming out with a service, all your expenses. I've already differentiated between what are costs of goods sold. In case of a service company, it's not called as COGS, it's not called as cost of goods sold, it's simply called as cost of sales, but it means the same, the logic is also the same. Besides this, you all also know what are your operating expenses. So whatever are your startup expenses, whether it's about equipment, legal services, marketing, research, and so on and so forth, and your operating expenses with regards to your office rent, depreciation, supplies. Okay, we have already categorized it into, the heads. They will all go up to determine what are your costs. Naturally, all of us want to break even. Okay, so anybody can tell me what is break even? What is break even?
Suppose ma'am, I invest 2 lakh rupees in developing a product, but my product's unit cost is only 2000 rupees. So in order to achieve whatever I invested in the development, I need 100 products to be sold, and at 100th product sold, I will achieve my break even. And after that, any profit that I'm earning from selling that product will be my net profit on.
Okay, so basically break even means, at the time, break even is a point wherein you have no profit and no loss. Anything over the break even point, you will start having profits. So this is what I'm basically trying to say. Okay, I will give you a very good example of Sony. I think everybody knows the Sony brand. Okay, the televisions. Okay, the Sony, it's a Japanese brand. Yes. No?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes,
Yes,
ma'am.
ma'am.
Okay. So they came up with, it's ultrasonic television a long time back. I was still very young at that time. And what was the parody over there? They priced the television at a price which was lower than its costs. So it was not recouping whatever expenses they were making on selling that ultrasonic TV at that particular time. So can you imagine a big company and a big brand like Sony wanted to push a television brand wherein it was not even recouping because it thought from other, its other products is going to recoup, but it became a major cause of, the repercussion of those losses was so huge that they had to ultimately, forego, manufacturing of that ultrasonic because it was a great passion of the founder. He thought the colors were so bright and good that and he actually fell in love not looking into the accounting part and and selling it at a price which was not even recouping the costs which were going into manufacturing. So
Yes, absolutely.
what I'm basically trying to say with the example of Sony is that you have to be very careful and you have to recover your costs to so that you can be you can continue with your business. Otherwise it becomes very difficult.
It is a point, ma'am, where company is neither making profit neither making loss, because जो आपका revenue generate हो रहा है वो आपकी cost के बराबर है. That's it. जब that is a break even point. जब आपकी company एक ना तो profit में जा रही है ना तो loss में जा रही है, but आपके जो revenue generate हो रहा है company से वो आपके खर्चों को cover कर रहा है. That's it.
Yeah, but what I'm basically trying to say, your aim is to go over and above the break even.
Yes.
This is what I'm basically trying to say, because अगर वो ऐसे आप नहीं करोगे आपकी growth curtail होती चली जाएगी. For growing you will require funds from outside, while you should be aiming at generating it from within. It should be generated from within. कि आपके इतने प्रॉफिट्स हैं कि आप वो आपकी ग्रोथ को फ्यूल कर रहे हैं. ठीक है. So that is what I was trying to say. So as I told you in the beginning, for a startup to start with projections of sales and your expenses has to be built up on certain assumptions. Okay, so and it's very crucial for you to substantiate whatever number which you are, especially when you are raising funds in front of your pitching and you want to raise funds from investors. They would like to know कि जो आपने sales का figure project किया है उसके लिए क्या assumptions लिए हैं. Okay, so the challenge for a new startup is उनका कोई historic data नहीं है. Okay, they have absolutely blank past. So you have to build up sufficient proof to say कि this is the basis on which I have projected this as my revenues or sales. So you need to validate each and every figure, especially expenses अपने पता ही होते हैं, but sales का figure project करने के लिए it's very important to validate your numbers. And there are a number of ways in which you can validate. You can say based on market research you found this is the demand for a customer, so I'm anticipating this will be the number of sales which is going to be made, or based on your contacts with your suppliers, or based on some company which is in a similar not same but similar business. These are the sales which they are making, and probably you are going to do it in a similar fashion. If it is something related to online, you can say based on the website traffic, this is how you. So what I'm basically trying to say is whatever sales figure you are giving, please don't give it in air. You have to validate the number as to what were your assumptions based on that. Okay, you have made. At the end, I will also give you a little bit of clue, how you can refine your assumptions. Okay, so the next is now, since you have projected sales, projected expenses, very simple. You just need to compile. आपने already देख लिया income statement क्या होती है, आपको पता है income statement ROO प्रोजेक्ट कर रही है, आपको पता है आपने सेल्स के फिगर या रेवेन्यूज के फिगर से ही शुरू करना है, और आपको each step यहाँ पे you actually know. I put a red arrow between 7 and 8 because आप अगर प्रॉफिटेबल होगे तभी टैक्स पे करोगे. ओके, अगर आप प्रॉफिटेबल नहीं आपको लग रहा जब आप प्रोजेक्शन कर रहे हो कि नेक्स्ट 1 year और 2 year और 3 year के बाद मैं आई विल बी प्रॉफिटेबल, then naturally if you are profitable from the word go, then naturally you have to even estimate what will be your tax expenses. But अगर आपको लग रहा है कि आपको ब्रेक इवन करने के लिए, that is why I asked what is break even. if ब्रेक इवन करने के लिए 1, 2, 3 साल लगेंगे तो आप ये टैक्स फिगर यहाँ पे नहीं शो करोगे, क्योंकि टैक्स हमेशा प्रॉफिट पे ही होता है, ओके, एंड नॉट फॉर योर लॉसेस. नाउ बैलेंस शीट इज आल्सो सिंपल. ओके, आपको पता है आपकी कैश, इन्वेंट्री, ओके, what will be your assets for the 12 months, आप कितनी इन्वेंट्री रखना चाहोगे, ओके, आपके पास कितना कैश अवेलेबल है. सिमिलरली आपको अपने प्रोडक्शन के लिए क्या चाहिए, प्लांट चाहिए, ओके, डू यू नीड टू or you can just go by rent, you don't buy a property, or naturally plant is required and equipment is required. Similarly आप अपना पैसा कितना डाल रहे हो, ओनर्स इक्विटी हो जाएगा, ठीक है. उसके अलावा आपकी करंट लाइबिलिटीज, जैसे आप अपने सप्लायर से मैं लेदर ले रही हूँ, ओके, बट मैं उसको पे नहीं कर रही, मैं उसको कह रही हूँ मैं उसके लेदर के पैसे 6 महीने बाद दूंगी, तो मेरा आ जाएगा अकाउंट्स पेबल इन माय बुक्स ऑफ अकाउंट्स, which is my current liability. Other than this, if you're taking a loan, then you have a long-term liability. So this is how I'm just going to fix up the numbers. Mind you, जितना मेरा पैसा पॉट में है, ओके, उससे ज्यादा मैं खर्चा नहीं कर सकती हूँ, ठीक है. So at all times my liability plus equity has to be equal to my assets. Okay, so that is what we call as accounting equation once again. Fine. Now there was a very smart question from Sadak, so I'm just going to answer that now. Projecting each type of balance sheet account may require a different approach. Why? Because it depends on the nature of your business. So naturally it's you have to take into account. Now let me very quickly tell you what are the income tax provisions. Under income tax, there is certain rate of depreciation which you have to provide. Like for furniture, it is 10%. For computers and computer softwares, which Sadak had asked, it is 40%. We know why it is 40%, because the rate of change and innovation is so fast. You have to depreciate that, that more faster than probably you have to do it for furniture. Okay. अब आपने मेरे से पूछा था amortization, depreciation आपको already intangible, they're like patents हैं, वो depreciate, yeah, the right word is amortize. They are amortized at the rate of 25%. Okay, so the Income Tax Act has given what we call as block of assets के लिए कितना depreciation. Why we call it as block of assets? आपके पास फर्नीचर के 10 आइटम हैं, तो 10 को, क्योंकि वो सारे फर्नीचर आप क्लब करोगे, ओके, और उस पे फिर जितना फर्नीचर का रेट है डेप्रिसिएशन, यू आर गोइंग टू प्रोवाइड इट एट द रेट ऑफ 10%. Okay, so this is how it is. I hope, Sadak, I have answered your question with regards to depreciation and amortization. Yes.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, then your business loans, आपका terms and conditions क्या set हुई है? आपने 5 साल का लोन लिया है, तो उसका इंटरेस्ट आपको एनुअली पे करना है, हाफ ईयरली पे करना है, और क्या टर्म्स एंड कंडीशंस हैं, ओके, उसके that is called as your repayment schedule. Okay, so these are the things which you have to take into account while you're preparing your balance sheet. And actually your depreciation amount and amortization amount also comes by way of an expense in the income statement. So this will also be shown as your expense in your income statement. The last is the cash flow statement. Your cash flow statement, there are two methods of preparing, the direct method and the indirect method. In most of the cases, we use indirect method because it's very easy to prepare it through indirect. नहीं तो आपको क्या करना पड़ता है, डायरेक्ट मेथड में सारी कैश ट्रांजैक्शंस जिसमें कैश आया है और कैश गया है with the beginning cash, okay, so that you can get end cash and also come to know what is the change in cash, वो सारा ट्रैक करना पड़ता है. इससे अच्छा तरीका है कि आप नेट प्रॉफिट से शुरू करो, जो आपकी इनकम स्टेटमेंट तो ऑलरेडी प्रोजेक्ट हो गई है, और उसमें से जितने नॉन कैश आइटम्स हैं जैसे डेप्रिसिएशन, अमोर्टाइजेशन, और जितना आपका वर्किंग कैपिटल चेंज हुआ है. वर्किंग कैपिटल वाज अ टर्म व्हिच वाज इंट्रोड्यूस्ड बाय प्रोफेसर वशिष्ठ, which is current asset minus your current liability. उसमें जितना चेंज हुआ है, अगर वो इफेक्ट निकाल दोगे तो आपकी रेडी कैश फ्लो स्टेटमेंट बन जाएगी. तो मैं आपको अब ये इनडायरेक्ट मेथड दिखा रही हूँ, और मैंने आपको ऑलरेडी बता दिया है कि हम कैश फ्लो 3 एक्टिविटीज के लिए बनाते हैं, ऑपरेटिंग, फाइनेंसिंग एंड इन्वेस्टिंग. So cash flow from operating activities is the easiest using your indirect method. As you can see, I will start with the figure of net income. जो चीजें मैंने इनकम स्टेटमेंट में रिड्यूस करी है, जैसे डेप्रिसिएशन, अमोर्टाइजेशन एक्सपेंस है, हमने उसका इफेक्ट नलीफाई करना है, तो हमने ऑपोजिट करना है. जो चीज रिड्यूस करी है उसको ऐड करना है, जो चीज ऐड करी है उसको रिड्यूस करना है. इट्स वेरी सिंपल लॉजिक. ओके, यू हैव टू डू द ऑपोजिट व्हाटएवर you have done in your income statement. Okay, जितने नॉन कैश आइटम्स हैं जैसे डेप्रिसिएशन, अमोर्टाइजेशन, आपने किसी एसेट को बेचा है, बिकॉज जो एसेट बेचा है वो ऑपरेटिंग एक्टिविटी नहीं है. मेरा ऑपरेशन तो सिर्फ लेदर बैग्स मैन्युफैक्चरिंग है. ओके, जो मैंने एसेट बेचा है वो ऑपरेटिंग एक्टिविटीज में नहीं आएगा, वो मेरी इन्वेस्टिंग एक्टिविटीज में आएगा. उसको मैंने इसमें से नलीफाई करना है इफेक्ट. उसके अलावा जितनी मेरी वर्किंग कैपिटल चेंजेस हैं, अगर मेरी करंट एसेट्स में डिक्रीज है उसको ऐड करना है, अगर इंक्रीज है उसको रिड्यूस करना है, और इससे एग्जैक्टली ऑपोजिट मैंने करंट लायबिलिटीज के लिए करना है. तो मेरा निकल आएगा व्हाट इज कैश फ्लो फ्रॉम ऑपरेटिंग एक्टिविटीज. ओके, द सेकंड वन, एज आई हैव ऑलरेडी टोल्ड यू, इज इन्वेस्टिंग एक्टिविटीज. मैंने आपको ऑलरेडी बताया, इन्वेस्टिंग इज या तो आप इन्वेस्ट कर रहे हो शेयर्स, इक्विटी में, प्रॉपर्टी में, या you're giving by way of a loan. So उसमें ये हो सकता है कि जब आप खरीद रहे हो तो कैश आउटफ्लो है, जब आप बेच रहे हो तो कैश इनफ्लो है. So it's very simple. This is investing, and lastly it's financing. I've already told you there are only two sources of financing. One is equity, second is debt. तो अगर आप equity raise कर रहे हो तो कैश अंदर आ रहा है, डेट कर रहे हो तो कैश अंदर आ रहा है, जब आप इसको रिपे बैक कर रहे हो डेट को तो बाहर जा रहा है, when you're selling the equity. Okay, so this is how there will be cash inflow and cash outflow, and this will complete your cash flow statement. So you can see cash flow from operating, investing and financing activities. You can also see the income statement. This is the basic revenue minus expenses. We've already seen the details. Your balance sheet is your assets are equal to your liabilities plus equity, and all these three statements are related to each other. I have already given you examples. Like depreciation is an expense on the income statement. Okay, when you are showing your asset, fixed asset, which is put to depreciation. Okay, suppose मेरा 1 लाख का asset है, जैसे हमने पहले calculate करा है, उसमें से 10,000 मैंने मेरा डेप्रिसिएशन मैंने एक्सपेंस चार्ज कर लिया है इनकम स्टेटमेंट में, तो जब मैं वो बैलेंस शीट में दिखाऊंगी, मैं 1 लाख लेस 10,000 इन द फर्स्ट ईयर, आई विल शो इट एट 90,000. अगले साल मैं उसको शो करूंगी लेस 20,000 एट 80,000. सो दिस इज द रिलेशनशिप बिटवीन इनकम स्टेटमेंट एंड बैलेंस शीट ट्रीटमेंट, जस्ट वन आइटम ऑफ डेप्रिसिएशन. कैश फ्लो स्टेटमेंट में भी मैंने आपको दिखा दिया है, depreciation is a non-cash expense under operating activity. So you have to nullify the effect. So what I'm basically trying to say is that these three statements are interlinked with each other. Okay, so that is the beauty of financial statements, that they're interlinked. The next is, I'm talking about sensitivity analysis because we are basing our projections on assumptions. So अगर आपको क्लैरिटी नहीं है कि मेरी सेल्स, आप कहते हो ओके मेरी सेल्स ओके are of 100 units, but sometimes you say okay it's going to vary between 100 and 120 units, so it's always more advisable that आप सिर्फ 100 यूनिट्स का ना बनाओ, आप उसको 100 यूनिट्स का भी बनाओ और 120 यूनिट्स का भी बताओ, सो दैट यू नो कि जो मेरी सेल्स है इसके बीच में इतना फ्लक्चुएट करेंगी तो मेरे इतने एक्सपेंसेस आएंगे और मेरी रिटर्न्स पे उसका क्या, मेरी प्रॉफिट पे क्या फर्क पड़ेगा. Okay, so this is the meaning of sensitivity analysis, that the projected financial statements are primarily based on expected relationship between income statement and balance sheet. It's often useful to vary assumptions in order to analyze their impact on financing requirements, ROA and equity. ये इसलिए भी advisable है कि सपोज अभी मार्केट सेंटिमेंट डाउन है और आप एक्सपेक्ट कर रहे हो कि 6 महीने में मार्केट सेंटिमेंट अप होगा, तो आप द मोस्ट ऑप्टिमिस्टिक पिक्चर एंड अ पेसिमिस्ट, दैट मींस रेंज अगेन आप उस तरह से बना सकते हो सो दैट यू आर मेंटली ट्यून टू द फैक्ट कि अगर कुछ भी गलत हुआ बट मेरी सेल्स इस फिगर से लेके इस फिगर तक वेरी करेगी और ये इम्प्लीकेशन मेरे एक्सपेंसेस में होगा और ये ही इम्प्लीकेशन मेरे प्रॉफिट पे होगा. ओके, सिमिलरली विद योर बैलेंस शीट एंड योर कैश फ्लो स्टेटमेंट. Now I'm calling this slide as minefields. I hope the one who have some background of army, okay, or their families minds बिछाते हैं so that blast हो. So these are all things which will blast your business. So we don't want them to be there. So I'm just making you aware of that. मैंने पहले इतना important point आपको already बोला है, कभी भी आपकी सेल्स फोरकास्ट अनरियलिस्टिक नहीं होनी चाहिए. ठीक है, जितनी आपकी कॉस्ट है ओके, आप टेस्टिंग, सर्टिफिकेशन, ओके, योर डेवलपमेंट कॉस्ट शुड नॉट बी इग्नोर्ड. प्लीज ब्रिंग देम इन योर बुक्स. आप कभी भी अपनी मार्केटिंग एक्सपेंस को अंडर एस्टिमेट मत करो. मार्केटिंग एक्सपेंसेस आर real thing because you have to do that. You will never know what is the demand for your product. अपना चैनल सेल्स इम्पैक्ट देखो. अगर आप किसी के थ्रू बिकवा रहे हो ओके अपना प्रोडक्ट, उसकी कितनी कॉस्ट होएगी आपको बेयर करनी पड़ेगी. ओके, इफ आई बाय my Subway sandwich, I go and buy myself, and if I'm ordering it through Zomato, I know what is the difference between the cost of the same sub which I'm having, so that has to be kept in mind. आपकी पैसे रिसीवेबल में कैश ब्लॉक होएगी अगर आप बहुत सेल्स अपनी क्रेडिट पे कर रहे हो और पैसे 3 महीने बाद आएंगे या 6 महीने बाद आएंगे, आपकी कॉस्ट, आपके पैसे कैश उसमें ब्लॉक हो जाएंगे. ओके, वी ऑल नो व्हाट इज द इम्पैक्ट ऑफ क्लॉग्ड सिंक्स. ओके, पानी बड़ा धीरे धीरे जाता है. ओके, सो दैट इम्पैक्ट ऑन द बिजनेस. सिमिलरली इन्वेंट्री, आपने प्रोजेक्ट किए मेरे 100 यूनिट्स बिकेंगे पर बिकते सिर्फ 50 यूनिट है, तो जो इन्वेंट्री आपके पास पड़ी है दैट इज योर कॉस्ट. ओके, वी डोंट वांट अनड्यू इन्वेंट्री. थोड़ी सी सेफ्टी स्टॉक तो मुझे चाहिए बट इतना नहीं चाहिए कि मेरे पैसे उसमें ब्लॉक हो जाए. आपका सेल्स साइकिल बड़ा इंपॉर्टेंट है. सेल्स साइकिल मतलब right from the time I procure my material, okay, till the time I make my sales. और वो भी वहीं पे रहेंगे. अगर आप क्रेडिट पे करते हो वो भी कैश में कन्वर्ट नहीं होंगे जब तक अगर आपकी बहुत सेल्स क्रेडिट पे और आपके कलेक्शन एफर्ट्स अच्छे नहीं है. ओके, डोंट मेक अनरियलिस्टिक प्रॉफिट मार्जिन. शुरू से ये मत सोचो कि मेरा प्रॉफिट मार्जिन इस पे मैं इतना सारा मार्जिन रखूंगी. मार्जिन मतलब जितना आपका कॉस्ट है उससे ऊपर आप कितना चार्ज कर रहे हो बाय वे ऑफ as an incentive to you. So don't make that unrealistic कि आपका प्रोडक्ट इतना एक्सपेंसिव हो जाए कि बिके ही ना. और हमेशा कैश फ्लो कंसिडरेशन रखनी चाहिए. कैश, वी ऑलवेज से कैश इज द किंग. अगर आपके पास हाथ में पैसे हैं तो आप उसको अच्छी तरह अपने बिजनेस पे यूटिलाइज कर सकते हो, नहीं तो आपका गेन ब्लॉक सिंक. ओके, सो the key takeaways which I would like to highlight is हमेशा you should look at similar businesses. अगर आपका business similar है to somebody, see what experience you can gather from that business, even if it is your business is unique, some related businesses. Okay, agar aap inko carefully, you are going to look at them carefully, you will make better financial projections. Okay, please deep dive into market dynamics. Market sentiment is very important. Okay, agar aapke product ki demand hi nahi hogi, okay, you might plan, you know, anything, it's not going to sell. So it's very important to know consumer का behavior कैसा है, consumer का आजकल sentiment कैसा है. Okay, are they, if your product is for, you know, whatever segment you're targeting, and that segment is not receptive currently on account of any macroeconomic issue, आपका product नहीं बिकेगा. So please be deep. You should, you know, sink yourself into what is the current market dynamics, and always engage with your industry specialist, whatever area you are working. Okay, he or she or they are going to give you good insight as to what is the business, you know, what is expected. So it's very important for you whenever you're drafting your financial projections to take some insight from your industry specialist. Okay, so I'm ending with a quote. Okay, this is by James Chenos. He's a very famous, you know, businessman. He said, I call it the rule of three. If you read a company's financial statements 3 times and you still can't figure out how they make their money, that's usually for a reason. Okay, so mind you, this is what your investor is going to look at on the 3rd, 4th, and 5th. He will look at, you know, if he is not able to figure out कि आप पैसा कहाँ से और कैसे generate करोगे, आपको funding नहीं मिलेगी. Fine. So I'm going to stop here, and I will take your questions on whatever I have said. Okay, although I fielded a number of questions in between, but I will certainly love, and I see the same faces. Okay, again, once again, who's Harshit over here?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, I can't see you, Harshit.
Ma'am, actually, I am outside right now due to it.
I don't mind the outside scene.
Okay.
I would still like to see you. Okay.
Ma'am, actually, I have a
It's
question.
lovely outside, I might say. The sky is blue, I can see it.
Yes.
Okay.
मैम आई हैव अ क्वेश्चन कि जैसे कि हमने काफी बड़ी बड़ी कंपनी इंडियन स्टार्टअप में देखा है कि जिनकी ब्रेक इवन पॉइंट अभी तक रीच नहीं हुए, हर एक ईयरली वो लॉस 30% 40% की लॉस करते हैं, फिर भी इन्वेस्टर्स उसमें पैसे पुट इन करते रहते हैं. So what the investor looking in these companies?
The investor is looking into the great potential. Okay, probably what growth, as I've already told you, I've shown you the quote in my second last slide. Okay, they are looking into the possibility for that startup or venture to turn around. And the money comes only after a turnaround. Okay, so they're probably anticipating that turnaround is going to happen. And whenever it is going to happen, it is going to be, you know, money generator. So this is what they're looking at. I hope I've answered.
Yes. Thank you.
Okay, any other question?
Ma'am, can I ask?
Please.
Ma'am, my question is not related to this presentation. I was wondering that when there will be investor summit, the investor will be asking for equity against the fund they are giving. So I have no idea that what should be the equity for what, how much amount of that finances. Like
you have to determine how much money you require in the business. Fine. Based on that, you will determine the, you know, how much would you like to give in terms of what is shareholding. Shareholding is nothing but a piece. There's a cake. Okay, so when you slice the cake, what portion of the cake will you offer to your guest, okay, who's an investor? So it's up to you. Usually an
Suppose I
equity,
don't want to give above 5%, then what will be the valuation according to the investor and whatever he may be investing?
see, it's a very simple logic. Investor will invest only if he or she or they are seeing some value in the business. Okay, and it's always better to have stakes, because then, you know, we usually use a, you know, terminology in finance. There is, you know, skin in the game. It's you know, very famous. We use skin in the game means their skin is also in your venture. They have equal interest and they're going to follow you up, and discipline is very important in your business. So this will bring in a lot of business discipline in your business and in your venture. And they will also, there are some investors who even would like to make suggestions as to how to go about, okay, and probably can give good input in terms of whatever, you know, your venture is all about. So it's not always, you know, कि जो investor है वो सिर्फ पैसा चाहता है. काफी investors होते हैं जो आपके लिए को बड़ा अच्छा, because उनका पैसा लगा हुआ है. They have skin in the game. Okay, since they have skin in the game, they're also interested कि आपका business, you know, flourish करे, उसका turnaround हो और आप profitable हो. Okay, valuation is one whole exercise. Okay, once you have understood financial statements, then you can carry out, you know, what should be the value of your business. That is another, you know, vertical here. For time being, what's very important is to determine, you know, your, as I've already said, your sales and your expenses, so that your projections are right. This is what they're going to see. आपकी सारी वैल्यूएशन आपके प्रोजेक्शंस पे, अगर उनको लगा कि आपके प्रोजेक्शंस ठीक नहीं हैं, you can be sure no money is going to be put into your business. So your projections have to be right.
ये बिल्कुल राइटली रिचा मैम का बहुत अच्छा क्वेश्चन था ये, क्योंकि एवरी प्री रेवेन्यू जो भी स्टार्टअप्स हैं, we come across with this strange question in our head that क्या equity dilute करना है, क्या नहीं करना है. The same question comes in my mind also day before yesterday, and I start researching a bit about it, किस तरीके से हो सकता है. Because कल भी हमारा एक मीटिंग था जहाँ पे कैन ऑर्गेनाइजेशन के मैम थे. She has suggested कि फाइनेंस के कुछ नंबर्स डालो प्रैक्टिकली. तो जैसे आपने बताया, assumptions के बेसिस पे लेना है, सारी चीजें लेना है. एक प्रॉफिट मल्टीप्लायर कर एक मैंने टर्म के बारे में कुछ रिसर्च किया, और किस तरीके से आप अपना एनुअल जो टर्नओवर है उसके बेसिस पे फिर आप अपनी कंपनी की वैल्यूएशन को सेट कर सकते हो. देन ऑन दैट बेसिस जब कंपनी की वैल्यूएशन निकालोगे, उस दैट बेसिस आप इक्विटी कितना डिल्यूट करना चाहते हो, दैट कम्स इनटू द पिक्चर. एंड वो डिल्यूशन कितना एक्स इन्वेस्टर को बनाएगा, 5x, 7x, 10x, 9x, उस बेसिस पे मेरे ख्याल से ये सारा पिक्चर और ये वैल्यूएशन का सारा सिनेरियो सेट होता है. तो इट इज
valuation is only after you have made projections.
Projection,
okay,
yes.
there are number of valuation methods, and there's one method is called as venture capital method, which is usually for startups, okay, which do not have any revenues. So वो मैं आपको बता रही हूँ, उसकी अपने ही डायनामिक्स हैं. जब तक आपको projections अच्छी तरह नहीं आएगी, तब तक आप वो next level पे नहीं जा सकते. You know, there's a whole lot. I think, did you have a session on valuations?
No, ma'am.
No, for valuation we haven't conducted any session.
Okay, that can come only after projections. There's a whole lot on valuation wherein you determine, you know, but उससे पहले आपको projections करनी पड़ेंगी, फिर ही आप valuation पे पहुंचोगे.
Okay.
And mind you, you should not take it as if, you know, investor is only after your idea and all. कुछ कोई भी investor जब पैसा लगाता है ना, उसको अपना पैसा बहुत प्यारा होता है. And he or she, you can be very lucky if your investor is in the same business. That means he knows something about your area of business, and can give you very good, there's a lot of hand holding by investors in terms of, and probably it can also help you grow. So we should not take it as if, it's always, investor is only after money. We should not view that, because they, as I've already told you, they have also their stakes in your venture. So that's very important.
मैम आई हैव अ क्वेश्चन कि मुझे एक TBIF IIT रोपड़ है, तो वहां से मुझे 5 लाख 5% के लिए ऑफर आया है, कमिटमेंट आया है। फिर मैं कैसे इवेल्युएट खुद की कंपनी को करूं? अभी हमारा प्री रेवेन्यू है, प्रोडक्ट बेस्ड स्मार्ट ग्लासेस है।
आपने
तो
प्रोजेक्शंस कर लिए, अपनी फाइनेंशियल प्रोजेक्शंस कर लिए हैं?
यस मैम। स्टार्टिंग के कितने कॉस्ट आएंगे, क्या आएंगे, ये हमने स्टार्टिंग 500 यूनिट में क्या आएंगे, ये हमने कैलकुलेट करा है।
कॉस्ट से तो कम नहीं बनेगा ना, सेल्स वगैरह भी प्रोजेक्ट करनी पड़ेगी आपको। Projections are not cost. The projections are basically on account of sales. ठीक है, पहले तो projections करो, फिर उसके बाद valuation होगी। Valuation is the next step. First is your right projections. So पहले projections करो, फिर valuations होंगी।
और मैम फिर प्रोजेक्शन में एक इशू आती है कि अगर हम कुछ यूनिट्स बना रहे हैं, तो अभी हम मैन पावर का जो कॉस्ट है ना, हम खुद काम कर रहे हैं, तो मैन पावर का कॉस्ट कैसे इवेलुएट करें कि हम खुद की कैपेबिलिटी की कितनी
उसके लिए
प्राइस
आपको शैडो प्राइसिंग करनी पड़ेगी। इट्स कॉल्ड एज शैडो प्राइसिंग। शैडो प्राइसिंग मींस if you are not doing it and you have to hire somebody who's going to do it, the same kind of work, how much will he charge? So that is called as shadow pricing. So you have to do shadow pricing to determine what will be the manpower cost. Okay.
Thank you.
Okay, I think with regards to financial projection, I've been able to. Okay, I'll share my PPT also. And other than this, Sadak, I think they have. They are more interested in valuations, but valuation is the next step. Until and unless they don't know about projections, we can't go to the next level, which are valuation methods. There are n number of valuation methods, n number, and there are specific methods which are just made for startups. So that is something which needs to be probably taken up.
I have considered already this. So thank you for your suggestion also. So we'll go step by step. So I hope today's session is clear to all of them. And then we can move ahead with valuation in coming days, since we have 15 more days with us.
Yes, yes. You must consider, taking up valuations.
Surely, ma'am.
So I hope I was of some value to all of you. And
yes,
it was very nice interacting,
Of
very
course,
smart
ma'am.
questions. And thank you for staying with me for 2 hours. Okay, so
definitely it was very engaging. That's why we stayed for that time.
Thank you very much. It's always nice, to take the challenge of teaching accounting to non-accounting people. And it was nice because we fielded questions side by side. So it was nice, I thought probably it made more sense. You are smart audience, asked good questions because you're actually into it. And thanks a lot.
Thank you.
One thing I would like to say, in your sessions, I have noticed one thing, that you always take up each and every concept in an example mode, which I really enjoy, and it's very understandable. So I really appreciate for your efforts that you put while, delivering your lecture and session. So thankful to you.
Thank you. It's my
the quality
age,
of a good teacher.
My age, which you can't see. Basically, because I've always, over the years, I have seen, we get a lot of engineering students in MBA. To make them understand, you have to relate it to food,
right?
Clothes, something like that. So it's more interesting. So
and I found so many things are relatable to my current तो मैं काफी उससे इसलिए practically relate कर पाया. So this is really insightful session for me to learn more than the usual thing. Now I don't need my CA to tell me so many things. I can evaluate my financial statements by myself. So
Thank you.
I
It's very important for all of you to be little financial literate. And I think in
Yeah.
accounting, I have made you a little bit literate today. So it's very important because otherwise everyone can, just take you for a ride. So it's
Yes,
important
yes,
for
yes,
you to
that's-
know. It's very important.
Yeah.
Thank you. Thanks a lot.
Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you.
Thank you,
Thank
ma'am.
you, ma'am.
Thank you, ma'am.